Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for joining. I think a couple more people will trickle in as the workshop starts, but super excited to introduce everybody to Sanjay Sethi. Uh, I'm excited about this presentation because there are interactive elements within it that the audience will have to dig out. So super exciting, but I'll just hand it off to you, Sanjay.
All right, thank you. And I appreciate everyone's time on this Thursday afternoon because back end of the week, it becomes a little more relaxed and we have too many things going on. So I welcome everyone. Um, I will just mention a tiny bit about myself. So I used to be a corporate manager, worked with some of the larger companies at one time, companies like Tata Group, IBM, Unisys, etc., etc. And then I decided to become an entrepreneur, and I think we all have that uh, itch when we have been on the corporate treadmill for a long time to see if we can walk and run on our own. So that's what I did, and I'm hoping some of us, and I'm guessing most of us have an entrepreneurial mindset. If not, if not being entrepreneurs, and that's what I was hoping to be. I was hoping to have those kind of people because the product market fit is a very interesting topic. It's very obvious topic, but it's also sometimes put on the back burner. But before we go in all that, I don't know, Tiger, can you run a poll or I just want to check how many of us are entrepreneurs, mentors, uh, and
Oh,
investors. I'm guessing all of us are all of
oh,
it.
just comment yes if you are in the chat.
Yeah, I think it fits everything in the realm, one way or the other. So I think as we kind of as workshop escalates and goes into it, feel free to chime in. Whether we have a lot of people obviously from the consultancy side to your own startup, to your own product, to experience from the corporate realm. So I think it'll all be applicable, and then obviously all the questions that came in as well from the community, we'll save those as well for the Q&A, so we can get some more highlights on those.
All right. So you should be seeing a slide, which is the title slide, which says how to validate your idea and determine PMF. So in the slide deck, I have hidden a couple of Easter eggs, so to say, and I would like people to observe that. So I'm just gonna go on to the next one. Uh, we'll start our presentation. So this is the uh, typical pyramid which Dan Olson came out with, and that's how PMF became a big buzzword. But before I go there, I'm just curious to different, all of us, what does product market fit mean? Like, what's your own opinion on PMF? What do you think it is?
I'll pop on. I'm a novice, but product market fit. Building a product that actually has a market for it and something that people want and need.
Awesome. And it's precisely that. So there's no, it's not a huge deal. It's a very simple thing. If you look at the pyramid, actually, it's very simple. The only thing that we need to focus on is that we do see that the customer is the base of the whole pyramid, like any other thing. But where PMF comes in is when you, as an innovator, as an entrepreneur, as a startup, have seen a specific unmet need. So it's not the general need, because there's most likely already competition in the market that you're targeting, but it's the underserved need, the need that has not been met, and which you are trying to fix the delta by offering something which all those aspirants, all those prospects are looking for. And even though eventually a lot depends upon the functions and features and the overall experience of the prospects and customers, but it really is this delta where what you propose and how the customer sees that value of that unmet need. So as Michael said, it's being in a good market with a product that satisfies that market. From a problem solution perspective, it is a solution that will work for a large chunk of people. So I think it was Andreessen who came out with that simple definition. And then you will notice at the bottom of the slide, the formula, your product is not your product. From problem solution point of view, what is the worth to the prospect or the client, and what happens when you achieve the PMF? What happens after you really are in a good market, you have a good set of clients? How do you scale what you have? And the formula and your product is not your product, we'll cover in next slides. But I just wanted to share the top view in terms of what you should be looking at if you are trying to solve a challenge of a customer. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to look at what is it that the prospect is trying to achieve. In trying to achieve that, what are the obstacles he or she is encountering? What are the things they would like to be better, different, and which you already are thinking about? And then what's your value prop? Now, you will see a couple of things here. You will, next to the yellow balloon, it says VP versus CVP versus CVP. And even though I'm going to explain that, I'm just curious, can anyone think what it might be? What is value proposition versus CVP versus CVP?
I think a lot of times, well, at least for me too, in my journey, when we first came out with a product, it's like almost what we think the value prop that we're offering is. And right, you hear pivot so much in the entrepreneur's life cycle is what were customers actually willing to pay for, or what do they actually end up using? Maybe you created a really broad product that they only use one feature of it, and that's what became the core product itself. And so maybe something like that.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. So CVP is nothing but customer value proposition, and that's the first CVP, right? Because no matter how smart you are, no matter how well you are trying to solve the pain of the prospect, but the question is, when you offer your value proposition, does it meet what they have in mind? You could be offering one of the best products in the market, but if the customer starts looking at that product and starts comparing it to the wrong product, for example, then you'll not be in a happy state. And now I'll come to the third CVP. And this CVP has come out because we have become a different kind of economy, and we'll come to that. But this is where we say complete value proposition. So what complete value proposition does is it just does not look at product and market. It looks at the entire ecosystem. It says, who are my vendors? If they screw up, will I get screwed in the process? And in the end, customer will get screwed up. So it just does not look at only at the product. It goes far beyond that. So, and this is, I just wanted to throw this to show the picture. On the left, you could say it's the product side, and on the right, it's more of the market side, because you have already figured out what you want to give. You have, based on their feedback and your knowledge and expertise, you are building something of value. You are getting that understanding from the market. But question is, are you bringing something really which is an unmet need? Are you creating a new market category, or are you just blending with what's available? Because that's gonna cause you, that's gonna be good or bad at the later stages. And the ultimate objective of every single startup is always helping the client and make money out of it, be profitable so that you can continue to deliver the solution. So when you look at the whole ecosystem, then you look far beyond just the product in the market. So even though it is product market fit, it's really a larger gamut than we imagine. So if we look at the Tega, just let me know, because sometimes the slides are lag. Do you see the snake-like slide now?
Yep.
Okay.
That's good.
Just wanted to confirm. So this is more like the life cycle of product in a way, or your offering in a way. When I say product, it includes products and services, to be honest. So when we are looking at this, we always start by understanding who our real customers are. So when we design a website or even a landing page, it doesn't matter if 600,000 people have visited the page. Question is, how many of those have responded to it, right? So it has to be not just the target market, but now we are looking at the funnel and saying, these are my target customers. You have seen their potential needs. You have created some kind of value proposition or unique value proposition, UVP. And based on that, based on your expertise, knowledge, understanding of the market, and based on customer feedback, now you are trying to bring a minimum viable product to the market. And this is really where your UVP gets refined. This is where your value proposition actually gets refined, because now market is going to tell you, well, I looked at the first beta, I don't even know why you exist, right? Or, at 60% looks great, but I see these lacunas. So that's where you create the real value proposition. Then you start testing it with your prospects, especially those who are close to you, or have such pain that they're more than happy to test. And that's another thing as a startup, as an entrepreneur, that you're looking for. And eventually whatever you come up with, you always test it without doing benchmarking. Again, the same example, having thousands of visitors versus having 1,500 valuable potential prospects is a totally different story, because that's the real story. And I put some common benchmarks in terms of engagements, checking out the engagements and how do you do that, but it'll be in more detail later on. Now, I think at the bottom of this whole thing, at the bottom of any startup, or reason for being a startup, is that you're going to serve some customers. And unless you are very careful, unless you have some very strategic questions to your prospects and customers, it becomes highly difficult at the later stages, because if they have not understood your value proposition, or they are not very confident of what you're delivering, but they're saying yes to you, it's going to be a little trouble later on. I'm just going to mention the points that are listed here, but I would like to hear back from you guys. And if you have launched businesses, or you have helped others, like Walter is a mentor, I know for sure. So I like to get a feedback in terms of what do you think. So instead of regular questions, if you're very focused questions, and if you're testing customers at the right metrics, you are speaking with customers who have potentially looked at similar products, and in the past they just dismissed them. Question is, are they willing to go with you? Are they answering in affirmative? If they are saying yes to you, you already are seeing a slight fit. But if they have never seen similar product and they're giving opinions, it can be a little tricky, and based on the sample size, you will have to figure out which direction you should be taking. And even if they have rejected others and they're willing to go with you, will they actually switch if they currently are using? So if it's a CRM and they're using Salesforce, and you go in with a new CRM and you say, wow, this one is completely focused on small and medium business. You are a small business, come with us. Now, question is, so far everything was great. They wanted all these functions, the features. Now when you ask them, if I were to give you this at a competitive price, will you hop over? And they say no, then you are not really anywhere close to the market fit. And I think I deliberately put match accurately with competitive offerings with a gap, because this is really where the rubber meets the road. If you are suggesting a certain value proposition, but the customer is comparing you with something else, you're offering a SMB model, customer is thinking of an enterprise model, it'll not be a fit. And again, you also have to test if they understood your value proposition in the context of what you're offering. So I just wanted to share this because I think eventually customers is where this whole phenomena starts and where it ends. Having said that, if someone has thought in terms of what they saw with their mentees, or if they launched a startup and if they encountered all this, or unless you were in a state where you really were in a great spot, it was completely innovative product. So very happy to hear from if someone has had experience.
Yeah, I think I can go really quick from a company that I was mentoring, and somewhat similar to, I'm sure, what people have seen here, B2B SaaS in that sense. And it was more of a kind of like future of work scenario for user feedback. And a lot of the kind of your point, right? There's two levels of product market fit. There's the kind of blue ocean view, and what Melissa Kwan speaks a lot of. Are you too early where you have to go in and actually educate your potential customers on, hey, you need something like this, where this might be a pain point for you, or they might know it's a pain point, but they don't know a solution like that exists out there in the world. So you're kind of teaching them that that's something that actually exists. And then the second step, right, to your point, is, are there competitors out there that are doing something and you're just offering a better solution? And so those are two very different markets, because how you demo and how you actually speak to the customer is going to be very different. And I think a lot of times earlier entrepreneurs only look at, hey, I know there's competitors out there doing this, I want to tweak it and make it better, right? Which is totally right. But there's a whole other segment of customers that have never heard of any type of solution to what their problem is, that you kind of have to create new landing pages for, right? New demos for, new really sales strategies around. And I think that as long as you can understand both of those, then you kind of prioritize what's the bigger market, right? Do more people know about it and are using something else that you're trying to pull from? Or is it customers that have never heard of anything? And that's typically how I always recommend, or at least how I've thought about finding product market fit early on.
Awesome. Yeah. Well said. Well said. Any other inputs? I'll be very happy, because, many of us are mentors ourselves, and we see these live problems. So, sorry, I had a call come in. So, this is a very simple slide. It's what we call a 5A framework. Very simple in in its look, but again, because it's related to the customers, very effective. So it says ask, acknowledge, appreciate, accept or not, and then act on it. And what it is it's been found that when you are speaking with your prospects and you're asking for their inputs, the best mode is, instead of when you ask a question and they start responding, you say, hang on, just think about it and then write it. So it's been found that when people start writing, so instead of just saying whatever comes to the mind, if they actually give it a thought for a minute and then write, they become very careful about what they write. And it becomes really easier for you and for them to understand where, how far in the journey you are together or how distant you are. So that's a very important aspect of this framework. And again, of course, like any other answer, you go deep into it. Do I understand what you said? Like whatever you wrote, do I understand correctly? And you will find that many people will go back and say, oh, what I meant was. So you tweak till you're both satisfied that, both of you have understood. And of course, if you're getting some inputs, you always appreciate the client. And it can be inputs that you don't like. You've been working on your startup for many days, many months. You go and meet the first prospect, and the prospect is very unhappy, or whatever he tells you is totally different from what you expected, and now you are like feeling bad. But feeling bad is one thing, but appreciate the feedback that you're getting, and based on, if you're getting that repeated feedback, then obviously you want to go back to the drawing board. And then not every single feedback is going to be great or even good for you or good for the product or match what you have seen in the market. So it's your choice, end of the day, whether you accept that feedback or not. But if you say, yes, it's a valid logic, and I've seen now this in various forms from 15 people, then you must act on it. Then it's no longer, let's put it in the back burner and we'll come to it when the time comes. So even though it's a very innocuous looking slide, but when you see it in the context of customers, it becomes very important. And so I don't know, I said at the beginning that there are a couple of Easter eggs. I want to check with you. Did anyone notice in the title slides? I think a couple of people came in maybe a minute late, but others, I'm curious. Did you notice on the very first slide, the title slide, there was mention of EMF, not just PMF? Oh, I see. So that's really cool. Because what's happened, as we all know, there used to be a simple, straightforward. You built a product, you went to the market. If there was a fit, you made money and a client was happy. But in this modern shared economy, it's now more of an experience market fit. It's no longer just I created a simple service and I'm not saying that doesn't work. That works as well. But this is where complete value proposition comes into being. I've just put some of the more well-known names here, but we all know multiple examples. And somewhere later in the slideshow, I'm going to share some very, very, very common names, and I'm gonna check with you if you like what I've collated and if you observed it yourself. So we'll go to that. But again, as it says, it's no longer merely a product. Now people are looking for experiences, and that's why a PMF is now has an extended version of itself. And if people are looking for experience and you want to stand out in the market, you better make it a really good one. So, as I mentioned in the beginning, even though you will not find in the books a typical formula, but these are some of the things, as both as an entrepreneur and as a mentor, you can base your findings on. So this framework says PMF process is nothing but converting prospects into customers. Simple, right? And when I mentioned it, one of the slides is your product is not your product. It's really, it says your value proposition is the product. Customer is not looking at all the functions and features. They are looking at if this is going to solve my problem, and they're looking from a totally different angle. And because it's a complete value proposition, so you're looking at all the moving parts. And as a business, obviously, you're looking at your business model, which is how am I going to make money, how I'm going to help people, how are people going to get their value. And there are some of these more common frameworks, something called the trifecta. We are looking at, you look at substantial growth, you look at stickiness of your product or service, and you look at actual usage. So you sold a product, and I don't know how many people, how many amongst our were actually in the business development or sales. We felt really great when we, or even as an entrepreneur, when we made our first sale, we really were very happy. Customer was very happy. And as it turns out, I used to work for a company called Confirm It. It was an enterprise feedback platform. And I used to work in New York, so went down to Toronto, met a large insurance company, and there was the whole top team. I presented, and to my surprise, to some extent, I got the order. So happy, so very happy. It's a SaaS-based product, so extremely happy. Send them the paperwork, signed as a client. After about 2 months, I'm looking at how well they're using. They've not even touched the product. When I presented, they were so excited, right from top to bottom. The whole team was so excited. We are getting this fabulous product. Never touched it. So we had to go back, and I had to kind of have my support team's intervention to see if they had problems in managing it. They couldn't understand some things or what it was. So the meaningful usage becomes really meaningful. I put Snapchat there because to them, what's important, for example, taking example of Snapchat, is it has to be substantial. But the question is, are they retaining their customers? Are people using it daily? Are they using some minimum number? So Snapchat, I believe, put that number as 10 snaps a day. So if a user was making 10 snaps a day, they felt this user is going to stick around, and it's a good fit. Again, PMF surveys are very popular because you're basically gauging the pulse of the customer, and you're saying, hey, listen, is it working well? Is it delivering? And of course, if it is not, then you go back to the drawing board. And then the Y Combinator framework, which says, instead of looking at tons of metrics, look at the one which makes sense to you or for your product. And I put the Airbnb example because they want to see how many people are booking, how many times they're booking, and how many stays one person is, or one bunch of people are doing, how much time they're spending. That's the best metrics for them. They're not worried about tons of other metrics. So that's where these frameworks come in handy. And then there are metrics that you can observe through data. You look at not just the customers, now you're looking at profitable customers. And you look at the lifetime value, Is it greater than your acquisition cost of each customer? And rule of thumb here is that it has to be at least 3 times the lifetime value of the customer has to be at least 3 times or more from the acquisition cost. And I've mentioned here not necessarily cash flow positive, because you can be cash flow negative, but as long as your lifetime value is increasing and those numbers are increasing, you're still in good shape. Then this rule of 40, I hope all of us are aware of this, basically says if your growth rate and profitability are more than 40%, you are in good shape. Well, meaning that, let's say you are a new startup and your profitability is very low. Your profitability is 3%, but your growth rate is 37%, you are in good shape. Conversely, if you're a large company, you're probably not getting that huge growth rates because you already expanded. You're a Facebook, you have millions of people. But then if your profitability is very high and the growth rate is not so high, you're still in good shape. So that's what rule of 40 states. Then there's the famous Sean Ellis test, which I think is a very smart test. I don't know how many of us have used this test, but instead of saying, we know the standard CSAT surveys, how satisfied are with you? Sean Ellis said, forget that. How does that help me? You are going to write, I'm satisfied, and then not use my product. Instead of that, let me ask you one simple question. Will you tell me, if I were to take this product away today, if, Facebook went off the face of platforms, will you be very disappointed, somewhat disappointed, or not at all disappointed? And if the number is less than 40% for very disappointed, then your product is losing whatever traction it had, if it's already in the market. And if you're planning it, or if just experimenting with your prospects, it's a sure indicator you could be in trouble. So on the right side of this, you will see there's a visual says how to perform a modified Allen test. So actually it's totally unconnected. What happened was I was looking for a visual for Sean Ellis test, and I wrote Sean Allen, and I saw this, and I just put this picture because I felt, despite the fact that and I think it's probably some health test because I can see someone observing the pulse. The reason I put that is because what really Sean Ellis test is doing is also measuring the pulse of the customer. Are you going to stay with me? So I said, you know what? Even though it's totally unrelated, let me just slap it here. And so that's how it came about. And then, of course, you look at, like I mentioned, you look at the stickiness, you look at how many people are actually using, but you're also looking at the usage data because you're trying to see, especially in the digital economy, it's one of the most valuable measures. So are there some tools for doing PMF? Sure, there are. I mean, the basic in pre-PMF are business canvas or creating your value proposition. And then, of course, because the entire thing is based on customer feedback, so you do a lot of ways. And the good thing is, because we are in digital economy, all these things, landing pages, markups, social media, online communities, is far more easier now than it used to be. You used to create prototypes, go to the client, figure out if they like something, dislike something. And here you are. You have every tool. If you are a very young startup, you don't even need to invest too much. Many of these things can be done for free. I mean, whoever thought that earlier? So I mean, these are excellent tools available to you. I'm not going into each one of them because business canvas, as we know, is kind of measures what you're offering versus what's the market, what are your costs and what are your expenses. And in the middle, just like the first slide of the pyramid, we are looking at the value proposition. Where does my value meet customers' value? And of course, as you launch it, you are looking at the actual data. Now, on the right side, I've mentioned vanity matrix, and this is also very important because even as mentors and investors, I think it becomes important because digital economy is simple, straightforward. Sometimes, especially entrepreneurs, get stuck in these metrics, like how many people actually signed up or how many people visited our website. That has no relevance to PMF at all, especially, and people discover it later on. I mean, they had hundreds of thousand people show up. The threads, which Facebook just launched, I was so excited. I said, you know what? Elon Musk, uh, question mark. He has his own whims and fancies. Here's threads. Let me just go and sign up. And I don't know how many people did sign up, but I went to threads. I was not sure if it was an extension of Instagram, if it was somewhere in between Twitter and I just couldn't figure. And they had heavy paid. I suppose they were paid promotions because some of the celebrities and sports stars were using it. I just didn't see any value unless you were an influencer on Instagram. And I don't know what's the common view. I mean, if someone has used it, please share your opinion. I will be very happy to understand what your thought.
Yeah, and I think part of that, and I used Threads kind of like you said that first week when it came out, and I'm also not a super active social media poster myself, but I think to the vanity metric of registered users versus like daily active users, right, or monthly active users, where I think registered users to a certain extent indicates some form of product market fit in the sense that you can at least get people that are interested in it. But to your point, then the long term is, are they actually interested where they want to continuously use it and they see it as being a product that they want to embed in their lives or share to their friends and family? And so anyone, with enough advertising or enough marketing can kind of get right social media follows or visitors to a site, right, or to a landing page. But how does it affect the long-term use? And I think that's where people aren't as critical of Threads now. But again, I don't see as many people actively using it, but also then again, X has also seen a pretty significant decline in users too. I think as a whole, people were just moving from that trend of media onto more right creator-based content like TikTok or Reels. So, but that's just my experience with Threads at a very small level.
No, I agree with you. That's exactly what I observed, and because I expected that Facebook was coming back to capture a different domain. So I thought it will be slightly different, but didn't turn out to be. And these are again, I just put this slide just to kind of say, well, if you're actually trying to achieve PMF, you are trying to find what exactly the customer is looking for, what are the unmet, underserved needs of the prospect, and how competition is serving them today, and how customers will see value in what you are building. So eventually, if you really look at product market fit, it's about three things. It's very simple. It's about customers, it's about feedback, and it's tweaking or iterations. So there's nothing else in if you just break it down. That's exactly what it is. So you have to be pretty agile to hear the feedback and then be ready to change. So incidentally, this slide says TLDR, and the whole purpose of TLDR is supposed to be like, in a very short, just present the whole concept. This looks slightly word heavy, which I agree, but I wanted also to make sure that I put everything together on what we are offering, why we are offering, and what we are solving. But again, like I said, forget about the entire slide. Just look at the highlighted points. We are looking at feedback, which I mentioned as research, and that is coming from customers. Based on that feedback, we are building a minimum viable product, and we are tweaking it based on that feedback. But we are not stopping there. We will, based on the kind of product or service we offer, we are going to continue to have that tweaking going on. Of course, it mentions everything else in terms of capturing the engagement and making sure that market you are approaching is scalable and the product is scalable. But really, the top three is where the story is. So now more. this is where we. And of course, I'll be very happy to hear back too, because I put a couple of examples, but we all know too many examples. So when Google Glass came, there was so much hype, and with a company like Google, which has seen nothing but success, you expect nothing but success. But the customer was unsure on where to use this Google. Like, what is your value proposition? Like, what I'm supposed to do is it that I can look at the product when I go to the Kroger's or Walmart or wherever grocery market? I will wear these. I will see the pricing, or can I hear the music? Is that what we are talking? So it was so confusing. So the concept was great, but the execution did not, the value proposition didn't meet. And we said, your product is not your product. Your value proposition is your product. This is what it is. I don't know if any one of us remembers when Coke came out with new Coke. Hundreds of thousands of tests. They put it in the market. It's gone within, I think it was gone within like a month. Can you imagine? I always imagine that probably Coca-Cola did not spend as much money on building the product as they might have done on the PR to wipe every trace of it from the market. Because you launched something which was the revolutionary, changing the taste buds of the people, and super flop. But on the other hand, we also know some of the better examples. And I brought in Airbnb because we have to remember they actually changed their unique value proposition. They started by saying we are alternative to a hotel, and then they changed it to, which tells me and tells you that PMF and value proposition can change, and you should be agile enough to change them. And then, of course, Uber doesn't even need saying. And I think if I just think of bad PMF, there are so many. I'm not sure if I have another slide on it, but yeah, I think I've not mentioned it, but the next one, I call it striking the right balance, because yeah, Chris makes a great point. That new Coke was much sweeter, and that's probably what new Coke was sweeter to chase Pepsi, which alienated old Coke drinkers but did not convert Pepsi drinkers. So bang on. Thanks, Chris.
I have a verbal question, Sanjay. How does companies that are this big make that big a mistake and not understand? Like, how is that even possible? Like the Budweiser commercial where they started going with Dylan Mulvaney, and they just got destroyed. Like, how is it even possible that these people don't understand who their customer is?
So very excellent question. I mean, absolutely right. And Chris says, well, there are humans in the decision loop, and I see a hand raised by Sanat as well. So I will hear them, and then I'll respond to you, Michael, if that's okay.
Yeah, I was gonna just say, the Steve Jobs once said that you don't ask the customer what they want, because he gives the famous example of Ford, where he said that if I asked customers what they wanted, they would have said I want a faster horse. So he says, a lot of the market research we do is pretty much useless. It's more about figuring out like, is there an actual need for this? Is there a real problem? And I think, New Coke was solving a problem that didn't exist. People liked Coke. They had no real desire for something like a Coke Zero offers something, but a New Coke was trying to do something that no one wanted. So I think, at least partially, that's probably what contributed to it.
Good point. Good point. Walter, did you want to say something? No. Michael, actually, I would consider that as answer to your question, where we are so enamored by our own ideas, and then we try to funnel the customer feedback into that. So I already presuppose. So if I'm a marketing guy and mandate from the CEO is let's expand the market, do something different, and I go, you know what? Why don't we bring out a fresh taste and attack Pepsi, grab their market share? Instead of, if I was monitoring my customers and they were giving me feedback, hey, you've been on the same path for 100 years, can you change it, please? Or like Sanat said, you were offering me regular Coke, trends are changing, I want a Diet Coke or a Zero Coke. Makes sense. But where we get, and Chris had mentioned that when human decisioning comes into the loop, influences it, then that's probably not the best path. But we do lose that in the excitement, and that's where some level heading helps. So I wanted to share some of the more common examples that we observed, and I will mention to you why I observed them, and I want to seek your view. One example, obviously, is ways Google Maps was, the runaway success, and yet when Waze came in an established market, it offered some different value. When I go to Costco, I started observing what was happening at the gas station, and till a very long time, I never filled my car tire air from Costco. I didn't even know they had a gas pump, to be honest. So I would like to hear from you if any of you can share and tell me what I'm trying to show here. Well, I mean, obviously it's not a large picture, but if you use Waze or if you've been to Costco, what's different? All right, so I think, sorry.
All right, what's the question you're asking? I've used Waze and I'm a regular at Costco for shopping and gas.
All right, perfect. Tell me this: when you go to Costco gas station, do you see any difference between Costco gas station and regular gas station? Apart from the pricing,
about 30 cents a gallon.
Yeah, I knew that. So apart from pricing, now the most wonderful thing about Costco gas station is when you go, doesn't matter if your gas tank is on the right side or left side, what
Yeah.
they have done. So it's very exactly. Chris said it absolutely. Disruptive innovation, better PMF for existing categories. So this is innovation that is helpful. I go to Costco. I don't even care if there are long lines and there are only 8 places where I can go. I can actually go to any gas pump without thinking, oh, I have to be on the left side or the right side. That now, I don't know how many people. Michael, have you ever filled gas at the Costco in the tires?
I take our cars, both cars and my mother-in-law's car there regularly, and it's either side. I love that. I don't have to worry about being on the wrong side and then having to back out and turn around like you have to do at every other gas station.
Right. So, but in terms of tire pressure and filling air in the tires, have you used it?
I have not. I'm not sure. I'm unaware of that. I do know I do know my local Wawa has free air,
Yeah.
and I go there to save $1 or $2 all the time, and I run all cars through twice a year.
All right. So you're gonna love this. You're gonna stop going to Wawa. You will probably go there because they have good coffee, but you'll stop using it because guess what? When we go fill air in our tires, when we use the gauge, we keep looking at the meter to see, am I higher, am I lower, have I filled enough? Don't need to do that with Costco. You go there, you set the tire pressure you want. The gauge will take care. Can you imagine you are at the back end of the driver's side tire, and you are still hopping up to see, am I overfilling the tire? So these are some of the examples. I like to use these examples because these are daily examples. When we think of Googles and Cokes, too large, but this is next door. This is what we use every day, and that's why I put, if you are an innovator or a startup, how are you going to do? That's why there's a fourth column. Just think about things you can do in your regular stuff. And I'm just I put this slide because I thought if there will be people from startups, they can understand how having a PMF will take care of all the pitching that you need to do for investments, because you can show what your prospects are saying, you can show market potential and the value proposition, and you have done validation, etc. So I just wanted to put that, and this is the last slide. Basically, if you look at the top, it's a very clear proposition. A great product will fail in a bad market, but a bad product will definitely fail no matter where it is. So with that, sure, Chris, I'll put that. So this is the end of the presentation, and
we really appreciate it, Sanjay. That was a fantastic presentation. We loved how it was interactive. We will send a recap here later today. We just have to process the video. We'll put it up on YouTube, and we'll also share everyone who attended, all the contact information as well. If you have any additional questions, we did go about 10 minutes over time here. So if you have any additional questions, please feel free to shoot me, Brian, Michael, or Sanjay an email, or on our Slack. But other than that, I really appreciate you guys' time. You guys have a great rest of your day.
Yeah,
thank you guys.
I'll just add one
Thanks,
thing. I
Sanjay.
don't want to sound like a Costco commercial, but we're a member a long time.